This is AFN's Berlin Tonight, keeping you in touch with the events of the day and the people around you.
Good evening. Today is a holiday in the Federal Republic. It's German Unity Day. It was on this day 32 years ago that East German workers revolted against the communist system that rules over them. Specialist Dan Quakelar reports. We seem to be having some problems with that report. We'll try to get it later on in the newscast. West Berlin's governing mayor Eberhard Diepgen paid his respects today to victims of the June 17th uprising. Der Tagesspiegel reports that the mayor placed a wreath at a cemetery in the French sector where 4 East Germans were killed during the rebellion are laid to rest. Over the weekend, Diepgen issued a statement dealing with the historic insurrection. He said that despite political differences between East and West, his city government is ready to cooperate with the GDR in the interest of the German nation. Diepgen added that the communist regime has a vested interest in more contact between East and West Germans. About 100 people rallied today at Checkpoint Charlie to protest human rights violations in East Germany. The Associated Press reports that the demonstration was in conjunction with the June 17th holiday. The demonstrators from 20 countries distributed leaflets protesting human rights abuses in the GDR. The group later marched along the western side of the wall. Meanwhile, a human rights organization also collected donations near the Brandenburg Gate for a 500,000 mark monument to the victims of the June 17th uprising. 7% of West Germans believe that the reunification of the 2 German states is not possible. The Associated Press reports that Bad Godesberg Institute for Social Studies conducted a nationwide poll of 1,000 people last month on the chance of a single German state. The subject is a politically sensitive one, although the West German Constitution pledges that the state will peacefully pursue the goal. According to the results of the survey published Friday, 51% of West Germans thought there is scarcely a chance of reunification with communist East Germany. The Institute said that another 40% of those polled are sure there will be no reunification, while 2% are undecided. Money markets in West Germany were closed today. On other European markets, the greenback made some slight gains. London dealers said the buck stabilized following sharp falls on Friday that were sparked by an unfounded rumor that President Ronald Reagan suffered a heart attack. Through tomorrow, the dollar continues to buy 3 mark 4 pfennig at military exchanges.
The democratic evolution, the Soviet challenge, world affairs, communism. Get college credits while learning these subjects and others at the Air Force NCO Leadership School, all designed for personal and professional growth.
We now have that report on June 17th of 1953. Specialist Dan Quakelar reports on the day 32 years ago where East German workers revolted against the communist East German government.
The Straße des 17. Juni. It serves as a reminder of what happened on the 17th of June in 1953. First uprising behind the Iron Curtain. East German workers had received another increase in their normal workloads. It was one in a long series of increases, and they decided that they were going to protest. The protest soon turned into an uprising. The protest began on Wilhelmstrasse and was quickly dispelled by People's Police. But the people were enraged, and they went on a rampage down city streets, setting signposts, custom booths, and newspaper stands on fire. Some of the Berliners made their way to the Brandenburg Gate, where they tore down the red flag that was flying on top of it and tore it to shreds. Soon, People's Police began joining the demonstration, and Soviet tanks were called in to restore order. As the Soviets shot machine gun volleys over the crowds, the people spilled over into the American and British sectors. By afternoon, 4 rioters had been killed. It's still not known how many were injured. The East German regime was finally saved by the Soviet intervention. 8 years later, the wall was built after tens of thousands of East Germans had fled to the west. The 17th of June in Germany is a legal holiday honoring those brave East Germans that rose against communist oppression. Specialist Dan Quakelar, AFN News.
The French military in the city opened the gates of Napoleon Barracks to the general public over the weekend. They chalked up a 14th year of providing fun, food, and camaraderie for the visitors and French soldiers. Army Sergeant Jack Banneman has the details.
The open house officially kicked off with the band drumming up interest. Stepping lively around the Quartier Napoleon, they played the festive music and entertained visitors throughout the weekend. Displays of tanks and guns drew everyone's attention, and if you wanted a guided tour, that was no problem either. You could see the sights by jeep, by train, on foot, or at a more leisurely pace. As everyone knows, walking about and touring displays gives one quite an appetite and thirst, and the soldiers at the French open house were prepared. Käse und Wein, or cheese and wine, Würstchen, or sausage, and of course there was no better place to get pomfrets, or French fries. The annual open house is an opportunity for the French to share their culture with the military and civilian community in the city. It also allows the French soldiers a chance to enjoy a touch of their home. So for 1985, au revoir from the 14th annual French open house at the Quartier Napoleon. I'm Army Sergeant Jack Banneman, AFN News.
About this time last year, Berliners and members of the Allied forces gathered at the Olympic Stadium for a soccer tournament. The competition may not have been at a professional level. However, it was so successful in enhancing friendships between the Germans and the Allies that they did it again 2 days ago. Specialist Danette Rodesky has the details on that story.
The French team scored the first 2 goals of the game, making it 2-0. Then getting the ball out in front and putting it between the posts for the U.S. team was Doug Magruder, number 12, who played for the Berlin American High School. Then both teams played a couple of subs, and going into the game for the U.S. team was Brigade Commander Brigadier General Thomas Griffin. After 40 minutes of play, though, the French team held on to their lead, winning with a final score of 2-1. In their second match of the day, the U.S. team played the Berlin House of Representatives. At the end of regulation play, the score was tied at 0-0. In the shootout, the team won 6-5. The overall winner of the tournament was the French team. But in this instance, what's more important than winning is how the game is played. Specialist Danette Rodesky for AFN News.
The U.S. Army Berlin track and field competition wound up on Saturday. The winner of each event now heads on to USERA level competition. Airman Bob Woodley reports that Berlin soldiers broke many records in the day-and-a-half event.
The 6th of the 50 seconds, Richard Armour set a new record for the men's shot put with a distance of 13 meters, 47 centimeters. CSB's 4-man team of Ray McGee, Steve Garrett, Rodney Hasty, and Stephen Dockery ran the 400-meter relay in 3 minutes, 27.9 seconds to set a new USAB record in that event. Derek Bradley of the 5th of the 50 second flew 6.6 meters to set a new record in the long jump. Derek Bradley of the 5th of the 50 second set a new record in the 400-meter hurdles with a time of 57.39 seconds. New records were set in the 100, 400, and 800-meter runs. Edward Washington from the 4th of the 50 second took the 100 with a time of 10.8 seconds. Ray McGee from the Command Support Battalion led in the 400 with a time of 50.36 seconds. And it was Joseph Davis from the 6th of the 50 second coming in first with a new record in the 800-meter run with a time of 1 minute 59.23 seconds. There were 2 new USAB records in the women's events. CSB's Felicia Shearer catapulted 3 meters 79 centimeters to set a new record in the long jump And Field Station Berlin's team of Madeline Neely, Pamela Stallworth, Teresa Sullivan, and Audrey Hasty set a new record in the 100-meter relay with a time of 1 minute 4.2 seconds. And in the seniors division, William Porter set a new record in the 200-meter run with a time of 27.88 seconds. First and second place winners in each event will go on to compete in the USERA level, which takes place August 3rd and 4th. I'm Airman Bob Woodley, AFN News.
There's a softball rivalry underway in the command. It's between last year's women's softball champions, the Avengers, and Medak. The Avengers beat Medak for the title of champion, an open sore that still bleeds at the hospital, but it's being treated by some quick pressure in the right places. Pressure applied by Coach Lyle Referchi and his Medak team, who are looking for Avenger revenge. Specialist Dan Quackelar has the full story.
Yesterday, for the first time this season, the brigade champion Avenger women's softball team squared off against their arch-rival challengers from Medak. The site for this struggle was the Andrews softball field. The game was a seesaw contest between the championship teams. In the bottom of the fourth, with Medak behind by a point, the score was tied up by this inside-the-park round tripper. But the fifth inning saw the Avengers score again to take the lead. Medak almost scored in the sixth with a runner on second, but the Avengers were hot to trot and kept the scoring to nothing that inning. In the seventh, Medak got their chance and took it. With the score tied in the bottom of the seventh, Medak had 2 outs, a runner on third, and a chance to win the game. That would have been the final play of the game, but it turned out to be a foot race between the Medak runner and the Avenger first baseman. The game went into extra innings. After the Avengers flew out in the top of the eighth, Medak came to the plate with power. Shelley Refacy, the wife of Medak coach Lyle Refacy, stood on second. That's when Kim Joyce stepped up to the plate. Shelley Refacy says she knew she'd be home soon.
No, I thought I was going to third anyway. I thought I'd go home and I seen him hit. I knew I was going to hit. He said, come on, no.
A lot of desire. They never quit. Never quit. We had an earlier game this year against Field Station. We got them 6-0 in the last inning, and they come back and scored 7 runs.
There was a lot of desire on the Avenger team as well, and that'll be brought to their next meeting before the playoffs. Specialist Dan Quackelar, AFN News.
Well, they've got a lot of enthusiasm, if nothing else. The weatherman expects some slow improvements in the weather for the Berlin area. He says that possibly by the end of this week, the temperatures may make it, believe it or not, all the way up to the upper 60s or lower 70s. There's a weak low-pressure system over western Russia. There is another low-pressure system over the northern Atlantic Ocean. Associated with that low is a cold front that is moving east. It stretches from the low east to Ireland and then swings back out on into the mid-Atlantic Ocean. A high-pressure system sits over France with a ridge extending from it across southern Germany. So the outlook is pretty much the same as last week's. Sunny and dry in southern Europe and cloudy and wet in the northern portion of the continent. Right now in West Berlin, the skies are cloudy with the winds generally at 10 to 15 knots, and they're gusting up to 30 knots per hour. The barometric pressure is at 1,014 and holding steady. The relative humidity is at 72%, and the temperature sits at 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 13 degrees Celsius. Partly cloudy to cloudy skies are in the forecast for tonight. The winds will be light from the west, and the night's low should hit 46 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius. And the cloudy skies continue on through tomorrow, with the weatherman says it will be mostly dry and there will be some short periods of sunshine. The winds also continue light from the west, with the day's high at 63 degrees Fahrenheit, 17 degrees Celsius. And a final note, because of the recent cool temperatures, the Department of Engineering and Housing announced today that they will turn on the heat in all quarters by close of business tomorrow. The exception to this will be individual housing, and a DEH spokesman said that they will get to those homes as soon as possible. And that's Berlin Tonight. I'm Army Specialist Rebecca Easley. Have a pleasant evening.
This has been AFN's Berlin Tonight, keeping you in touch with the events of the day and the people around you.